Good day to you all. One of the first things I did after moving to Reno was to check out TMCC and specifically their strategic plan. I was extremely impressed with the strategic master plan for TMCC that was produced for 2021 through 2027. The fact that they're tied into an overarching vision, they connect with the broader statewide NSHE goals, and that they offer specific measurable targets on activities that are designed to meet the TMCC goals. And over the last decade or so at my previous place of employment, I often lamented to my colleagues of the lack of vision from the upper levels of administration, and I've always believed that the vision needs to come from higher levels of the organization. And when we'd ask our VPSS, Vice President of Student Services, about what his vision was for student services, he would always deflect and ask us what our vision was. He clearly had no vision. So today, I want to just kind of go over the TMCC strategic goals and then help answer the question, but what can our student service area do to basically help achieve those goals for the institution? This is just something that I've been really interested in for many years, of really trying to take a vision and be engaged in activities that help realize the vision for the institution. I know it's kind of maybe an administratively geeky thing to do, but I like it. But in general, once a vision is established in an institution, then strategic objectives and activities can be written that really specifically support the realization of the vision. And I'll be walking you through my thoughts on traversing from strategic goals to more specific student services activities. Like NSHE, California had a statewide vision for change, and so I utilized the strategic objectives, the vision. When I was first developing this, I've just incorporated some of the ideas that I had for my California school into this particular presentation for TMCC. And these are just thoughts, and they're not activities, they're not, absolutes. This is, I'm saying we need to do these things, but I just wanted to kind of show how to connect the pieces. And I'm using some of the DVC activities that I incorporated into a similar video, and as an example for TMCC. I know a lot of people don't like, are not that interested in, looking at strategic goals. They kind of yawn and want to pass out every time they start talking strategic goals and objectives. But hopefully I'll make this a little more engaging and exciting for you. So on the NSHE front, just a quick overview of kind of their vision and strategic goals. They related to access, success, achievement gap, workforce, research, and stewardship of resources. And so I am going to go through each of those just with, again, some of the activities I incorporated into California. I didn't, because we have not had discussions within our department about maybe some of the things that we can do to help the college achieve these lofty strategic goals. So one of the first ones I want to go over is access. And TMCC's goal is to increase enrollment to keep pace with our community's growth and diversity. And so I'd like to ask, myself and then you guys, what can we do to increase enrollment at TMCC? These are very common themes, by the way, with almost every school in the country. So it's not new in terms of what the strategic goals are. But one of the things that I'm very passionate about is really baseline research. So the first item, baseline research and continuous student equity of access research by college and by program. We need to get baseline data on who's accessing education and see if our enrollment is representative of our community in terms of race, ethnicity, gender, age, etc. But almost for all of my slides, you're going to see that baseline research is needed, okay? So review marketing, outreach, and liaison messaging to create and ensure constancy of talking points. Another important thing that not a lot of colleges do. I was listening to Pam Cox, one of her videos, and she said that only about 30% of colleges have the marketing, outreach, and communications people actually coordinate messaging. So I'll get into that maybe a little bit later. One thought that we were thinking about at DVC was to establish counselor, advisor, and administrative liaisons to feeder high school counselors and principals. Something that we used to do a number of years ago. It was very effective in developing relationships with the high schools and the principals when we only seek their assistance when we're in low enrollment, then the high schools feel used. But trying to develop a system whereby we develop long-term relationships with these folks, I think would help long-term in helping increase enrollment. Another thing in terms of access is part of the messaging, right? And sometimes it's in the development of a motto. This was just one that I just came up with for DVC, but TMCC, a culture of caring. Just something that is a little motto that captures a welcoming message and our intent as a college with students. So let's move on to the next goal, and that's success. The TMCC goal is written: increase student success metrics to those of our aspirational peers. So apparently we have some other colleges that we are measuring ourselves against, which is always a good thing. But again, what can be done to enhance student success at TMCC, and what can we do as a department, I think is something that we can ask ourselves and, again, engage in this whole strategic objectives and planning process. So one thing, again, establishing baseline research, incorporating comparative student success data by service area. So in this, what I'm talking about is looking at students who utilize our individual service area versus students who don't utilize the service, and then look at their student success outcomes. So looking at persistence, retention, GPA, completion rates, all of those things that we would want to take a look at and see if we are impacting student success. And the past research that I've done in this area would suggest that advising does increase the success of students. So I don't know that we've ever gotten that research here, but if we haven't, we should request it. Enhance clear pathways and intrusive counseling advising towards specific goals. Seems like that's done really well here from what I've gathered. But maybe there are ways that we can further engage through this intrinsic counseling advising model, and maybe utilizing the appreciative advising model or some other ways. But anyway, just again a thought. And then really looking at identifying and assessing current efforts to impact equity in student success. So when we get student success data, we usually take a look at it by demographics and see where our equity gaps are. So what we might want to look at is like, okay, are there ways that our area can impact reducing the equity gaps in our student success among our students? Maybe there are, maybe there aren't, but again, it's worth a discussion point. Next goal, more specifically, the achievement gap, and the goal of closing the achievement gap among underserved populations. Something I think that we're all really committed to. And again, we need baseline research to identify all equity gaps in both access and student success, and then look at comparative student outcome data by service area. So we're comparing students who use our services versus the overall student body, but also comparing them with students who don't use our services. Then we will have a sense, and then looking at the equity of access issues, we can see who is accessing our services, who isn't. And if there are groups that aren't accessing our services, then we can perhaps talk about targeting outreach for certain populations of students, for example. Again, enhancing clear pathways, intrusive counseling, and advising towards specific goals, similar, as I mentioned before. But something that I really believe in is this last part, through case management approaches. So if there are groups of students who are not succeeding, and they're part of an ethnic, racial, gender group, whatever, maybe there's some things that we can do, because case management approaches tend to work. They've worked with student athletes in the past. It seems like they really work here, from what I can tell, the work that's been done here with athletics, and it worked at DVC when we targeted case management approaches. Then the other thing is really to be able to identify and assess current efforts to impact equity and student outcomes. What we don't want to do is just randomly create programs without information. So that's the importance of identifying the equity gaps. And then when we create a program to try to reduce the gap, then we need to measure it, see if it works. If it works, fantastic, let's keep doing it. If it doesn't work, then we go like, okay, no problem. We give it our best effort. What can we do differently so that we do have an impact? Next slide, research. Now, research in TMCC's goal is a little bit different than how I view research. I view research, as you might have already ascertained, that we need baseline student services research, and we need to institutionalize that research so that in a yearly or even semesterly basis, we are able to take a look at the equity gaps in both access and student success, and then that comparative student outcome data by service area. Every student services area should get this. And then review research and base program plans on enhancing, and base the program plans on enhancing student access / enrollment and student success. And just the encouragement of really bold ideas, initiatives, and goals, incorporating ideas from all student services employees. And the important thing is to be able to take risks without fear of penalty. If something doesn't work, you're not going to be canned. You know, that would be a little bit of a deterrent to creative thought. Okay, let me go on to the next slide. Stewardship of resources. Again, something that's really important. How can we play a role? Pursuing external funding opportunities to enhance services like the wellness grant that a few of you were involved with that we picked up. That's a great way. That's a great example of ensuring ongoing stewardship of resources. And then just efficiently and creatively utilizing existing resources to maximize services to students. And then kind of how we do that. So overall, how does TMCC meet its strategic objectives? And I think, again, through, as it says here, bold, thoughtful, and decisive action. Let's get creative. Some of that creativity lends some kind of the spice of the job. Some of the fun parts of the job are really creating opportunities for students that might enhance their success in general. And I really strongly believe in these three items: the consistency of the core messaging, and I haven't been here long enough to know if that's something that our outreach and communications and marketing people do, or even if we have a core message. If we have a core message, I have not heard it yet, and that in and of itself might be indicative that, yeah, if we have one, we need to communicate that out to our college community a little better, and if we don't have one, maybe we need to get to come up with something. Again, assert ourselves into the community, whether it's the high schools, wherever. But high schools in particular, we need to assert ourselves, I believe, as an institution. And then intrusive counseling advising toward educational goal completion, since that's part of our funding formula. But we want to engage with students to maximize their opportunity for success. And that will do it. Again, these ideas were just ideas that I more specifically had for DVC, and I'm just using those as an example of how we can turn TMC strategic objectives into like operational activities that we can engage in